Happy New Year. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers Pregame Show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Again, welcome to the show. Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck, Devon Givens. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you all had a fantastic New Year with your friends and your family. And you stayed up late once again with us for some late night West Coast basketball as the 76ers now shorthanded tonight against the Sacramento Kings, looking to go for 5 in a row here. And we'll see what that actually looks like. Bree is producing as always, all of you in the chat. We appreciate you joining us here on this Wednesday night. January 1st, 2025, Derek. We're already in the new year with the calendar flip there.
We are. The calendar flipped from 24 to 25, and it flipped from the preseason to the regular season, and I am excited for both.
Well, some lineup news for you fellas as we
this is looking like a preseason lineup. Kyle.
Andre Drummond, Eric Gordon, and Kyle Lowry are all in tonight. So whether you want to get excited about that or hang your head in disgust, I mean, that's up to each individual person to decide how you would like to respond to that news. We are still waiting on the ultimate starting lineup news after that. But Kelly Oubre was ruled out about 25 minutes ago or so. Mm-hmm. And so he's been, I believe he's played as many games as anybody on the team. Him and Yabu, I believe, are the only guys who've been available all season long. So that's and look, we were talking the other night about how good of a game Oubre had and how important he's been to their defense and so on and so forth. So that's definitely a major loss.
Yep.
Starting lineup is now in, so might as well just keep flowing through that. Kyle Lowry right back into the starting lineup with Maxi, Caleb Martin, Paul George, and Yabu gets the start at center. So Drummond, I would imagine, is probably going to be in somewhat of a limited role tonight, or at least limited minutes. I still continue to wait on Adem Bona and see if we get any kind of action from him. So I'll kick that over to you guys. That's the 9:30. It would normally be 6:30. 9:30 lineup update for your Sixers.
Can we get an update on Lonnie Walker? What is Lonnie Walker up to right this very second? Kyle Lowry starting in the year 2025. I know they're missing a lot of people, but
hey, at least Eric Gordon's insane oral surgery recovery
he's
time period is finally over. He finally, his new mouth is all set up. He's ready to play basketball again. So, the headline is that Joel is out, right? But everyone kind of expected that. I don't think there's a whole lot to really analyze on that front because it's a back-to-back. They're playing him against a team potentially tomorrow, but they're sitting him against a team tonight that has been in complete disarray, just fired their coach, has been in the tailspin for quite a while. And they should, in theory, on paper, and I know we said this a lot earlier in the year when they were in disarray themselves, they should be able to beat this Kings team without Joel because I think Sacramento is unsettled enough that you're getting reports and articles and talking heads talking about this team, presenting all kinds of conflicting anecdotes and stories and quotes coming out of the organization where it was like, well, we didn't want to fire Mike Brown. But you did, and all the players love him, but somehow you felt the need to fire him, and it's not the roster, and it really wasn't Mike's fault, and it's like, okay, well, all these things can't be true at once. So Sacramento is a team in a really rough spot right now. They have not been good for most of this year. They have some talented players, but players I think are flawed. I think Sabonis probably at the top of that list, where I think he's a very productive guy, but certainly someone who's exploitable defensively and probably hit a hard ceiling with him as one of your offensive hubs. They were able to take care of the Kings pretty easily without Joel last year, and that was a better version of the Kings than they are this year. And DeMar DeRozan, obviously one of the big names over there, he has contributed to their problem with making threes, taking threes. It's, the classic DeMar DeRozan's numbers are very good individually, but team offense, not where it needs to be. And here we are playing the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, like you mentioned, they're 24th in the league in three-point attempt rate. They only shoot 33% from deep when they do take it. They are a mid-pack at best defensive team, and over the last couple of weeks, that has fallen pretty quickly. They are a very, very flawed group. I do agree the Sixers, even without Joe, assuming you get an adult offensive game from Paul George, the Sixers should be able to take this one and continue their winning ways. It is a lot more difficult without Joel Embiid. You have less margin for error with Tyrese Maxey, but this is a group that, and I struggle to say this because we said this so many times before Joel Embiid returned, but this is a group that George and Maxey should be able to go to work against and have some success. But they have to actually execute. They have to actually make shots. That has been a consistent theme throughout the season. But yeah, I certainly, you're not going to let them off the hook. Like, they should have a very good chance, and they should be favorites to win this game.
And the Kings did win their game also on Monday. In Doug Christie's, the interim coach, first game 110-100 over the Dallas Mavericks. Now, the Dallas Mavericks were shorthanded.
I thought they lost on Saturday, though. I think that was Christie's debut. So that's, to me,
okay,
that's the worst sign when you can't win the immediate coach firing bump game. That's a bad sign. They beat Dallas, and Dallas is without Luka right now.
Yeah,
notably, we talked on Monday. Portland also beat Dallas without Luka. So that game against Dallas means almost nothing to me. I don't think it's as representative of their form as the games preceding that. Now,
and they were just coming off of a 6-game winning streak before that Dallas win, or losing streak. Yeah. I mean, sorry.
Yeah. Not in a good place right now, to say the least.
No, they're not. Just, of course, just want to let everybody know, though, that they did win their last game. So people always point out how we look at the other team and they play hard and all of that. Just want to let everybody know that they did win their last game against Dallas, shorthanded and all, because of the fact that the Sixers tonight, even with Maxi and Paul George, are shorthanded when you do have another starter out in Kelly Oubre, the impact that he had. And as Derek just pointed out, if Paul George has an adult game, that's one thing. But if he doesn't have an adult game, who's the other option of potentially stepping up with some scoring help for Tyrese Maxey? So just looking at both sides of it and where they are, the Sixers should win this basketball game and hopefully get some players back on the second end of it for tomorrow's game against the Golden State Warriors. But yes, the Dallas Mavericks shorthanded, but the Sacramento Kings did their job in winning that game over them on Saturday. So when you look at the Sixers right now and you talk about Maxi and George, but it's the others also. They're on a 4-game winning streak. Kyle, what have you liked? Of course, Embiid being in there, Kelly Oubre being a part of it, with them being on this 4-game winning streak going for 5 tonight. What have you liked about what they've done overall as a team to start this winning streak that they have?
I think it's mostly just that they look like the team that they were advertised as coming into the year, right? Where maybe the numbers are not quite there, but I think there are more offensive possessions where we're saying, hey, that's good process, right? They're working through multiple looks, ball swinging around the floor, creating open threes for not just Maxi, not just Paul, but like guys all over the floor and playing a more harmonious style of offense. Like that's a really important thing for me to see as we are moving into 2025. You're a good chunk of the way through the season already. You need to start looking like a real deal offense, because frankly, the defense has been maybe not as good as you want it to be, as good as it can be, but it's been pretty damn good when you consider that Joel has barely played most of the year until recently. Paul was in and out of the lineup early in the season, and you were playing lots of, and still are, you're starting a small backcourt tonight. You're playing lots of double small guard lineups and still cobbling together a defense that's been hanging around, 11th, 12th in the NBA and has had a real identity. And so I think seeing those two things converge is the most important thing, right? Like we've been getting some of these, and the Portland game the other night against a bad Blazers team, you see really like the outline of like, this is who you want to be, right? A team that forces a million turnovers, that Joel can score 37 and Maxi can toggle it on and off on the other side of the ball, where he's a game manager, but then he's the head of the snake, and you kind of juggle those responsibilities. I just like seeing things start to feel real. Like Derek always jokes, it's the preseason's over now, finally 3 months in, but that is what it feels like, right? Like they're starting to play. They've played some real teams up until this West Coast trip where they beat Boston, they beat San Antonio, and looked good against both of those teams. Now you have to get to where we thought they might be coming into the year, which is, okay, Joel gets the night off. He's not playing the back-to-back. What do you have out there tonight? And so this will be a good test to see what kind of progress they've made from roughly Thanksgiving onward, where before Thanksgiving, Joel's out of the lineup, or any one of these stars is out of the lineup. You basically just pack it in and assume these guys are losing.
Yeah, I really do think that defense is something that it was solid all year, but it's been much better here of late. And not only do they force turnovers, but this is something we pointed out before the season. They don't give up as many corner threes as previous iterations of Nick Nurse teams did. Nick Nurse teams have always prioritized, showing a lot of pressure on the ball, forcing turnovers, getting out in the break, and they were willing to concede those corner threes. The Sixers have been able to recover back out there and dissuade some of those shots. They've been able to take that, get out in an early offense a little bit more. Maxi's talked about that, helping him get going. And they've been able to turn that defense into offense at a pretty impressive rate of late. It is something they can rely upon. They have enough wings to throw out there. Obviously, Kelly being out is a big factor in this game. He had been playing some really inspired defense, especially with that 8-steal performance. I'm really wish he could have gotten that triple-double and made franchise history, just because as a numbers geek, that would have been real fun. But he had an incredible performance, and he has been a lot better here of late. But yeah, it's obviously Embiid coming back, drives winning, Maxi making shots, but the defense really gives him a chance each and every night. And that's been, even though the numbers were pretty good to start the season, that has been much more consistent of late.
And I'll go with the individual part of Tyrese Maxey just shooting the ball well again and and while he's had those stretches, even when in the one win you guys pointed out how his game overall wasn't great, he just made the shots that they needed to help close the game out in general. The fact that his shot has been back has been a big bonus for this basketball team. Certainly a lot of that plays a part of with Joel Embiid being back on the floor, but for it to get started, even when Embiid is not on the floor, the fact that he has knocked those down, you would hope that they would carry over in games like tonight against the Kings, where he makes his shots playing alongside Paul George. Of course, the attention is going to go both towards their direction more because the fact that the big fella is not there to take up a lot of the attention, but he has made shots. So if he can continue to do that, just named player of the week, of course, the last week of December, and with the way he is playing, averaging 32 points a game in that stretch, if he can do that tonight, they probably need a 30-point game from him tonight, but even if not, if you get the adult game from Paul George to help take away some of that pressure, then it should make things a little bit easier. We'll see what the playmaking comes in with it overall. It's probably more Paul George and, of course, what Nick Nurse and the offense draw up. But to have Maxi back scoring the basketball that we are accustomed to seeing, and seeing that on a consistent basis for the month of December is a real plus for them over the course of this 4-game winning streak. Let's see if it can continue tonight, because, look, De'Aaron Fox is De'Aaron Fox. He's still a good defender overall. Ellis, as we've talked about in the past, still a decent defender, but they do give up points, as you guys talked about. They like to get up and down the floor. Sacramento does. They allow you to score points on them, and he's going to be the head of the snake for the Sixers in doing so. So we'll see if they have an opportunity to do that, starting with Tyrese Maxey tonight.
Yeah, the question right now for the Kings is, are they going to actually play any of their guys that like to defend, right? Like you brought up Ellis, and in that Lakers game they lost the other night, I think he only played something like 10 minutes, 12 minutes, something in that range. Mm-hmm. Now he got up to 20 in the game against Dallas, but not real. Again, I don't even put any stock into that game because Kyrie didn't play in that game either, and Dallas is still up at halftime. Like, that is probably the best snapshot of where the Kings are right now, right? No Luka, no Kyrie. You're coming off your coach getting fired. It's like everyone's antenna should be up, and you sleepwalk into Dallas and not into Dallas, into the Dallas Mavericks, and you have to pull that game out of the fire in the second half and squeak that one out by 10. So The Kings have just been, when I've watched them this year, they feel like they're stuck between 3 different versions of the team, right? Where it's Sabonis's team, and when they run stuff through him in the high post, but DeMar DeRozan wants to operate from some of those same areas. Fox's 3-point shooting, which was very, very good for a lot of last year, has been way streakier this year, so they're dealing with problems with that. I think if you're the Sixers, I think part of the reason, other than Drummond being, limited, we would imagine in tonight's game, part of the reason you want to play Yabusele is if you can stretch Sabonis out, they do not have guys that are good one-on-one defenders, right? So if you can game the matchups elsewhere and as we say, bozo hunt on the screens and the switches, I think that's an easy way for not just Tyrese Maxey, but Paul George potentially and some others to get going early in this game. I don't like the Kyle Lowry start for many reasons, but one of them is that you're basically giving back the advantage that the Kings allow you to have by starting a trio of Fox, Monk, and DeRozan, where I like Fox as a point of attack, one-on-one type defender, but as a high volume offensive player, his mind can wander off ball. Malik Monk is a terrible defender. DeMar DeRozan has not been a good defender basically ever in his career. And so I would like to see you go at them, and I don't know that Kyle Lowry starting does a whole heck of a lot to exploit their weaknesses.
Yeah. No, De'Aaron Fox off ball is a lot like me doing a 1 a.m. game recap. Sleep wheel. I'm real interested to see what we get out of Paul tonight. His splits without Joel Embiid are pretty drastic. I pulled them up earlier today. 29.3 points per 100 with a 38% 3-point percentage and a 55% true shooting without Embiid. Drops to almost in half to 15.7 points per 100, 21.7% from 3-point range, and a 43% true shooting when he plays alongside Embiid. Now, there is some caveats there, namely that 2 of the games against Charlotte came without Embiid, and he had monster games in those. That probably wasn't because Joel Embiid wasn't there. It was probably because he was playing against Charlotte, and that tends to boost your individual numbers. So he's only had a couple of really big games, a bunch of them without Embiid coming against bad teams. Certainly can boost those numbers, but he just has never looked in rhythm, in comfort playing alongside of Joe. We talk a lot about Joe and how he creates space and makes the job easier for both ball handlers because he has such gravity, and also shooters because he forces double teams and moves the ball around. That has not been the case with Paul. And he just has his usage dropped so much. And for whatever reason, he hasn't been able to really gel. Can he ramp up against a team in Sacramento who will hemorrhage points? Like we're talking about, they're 1-6 here in the last 7 games. I think they're 22nd in the league defensively over that span. They are a bad defensive team. They will give up, shots, and they will let you get to your comfort zones. Can Paul take advantage of that? They will need him to do so tonight to pull out a win without Joe.
Well, and when you look at Kyle, you talked about Kyle Lowry being out there on the floor, and we pretty much know it's because he's just the guy that Nick Nurse trusts, but also in setting up those other players a little bit to take some of that pressure off of at least just setting them up. Now, his dribble drives and all that stuff may not necessarily be there, but just running the offense and getting them some decent looks and passing, making the right pass, being there for that. But with the Yabusele piece and pulling him away from the basket, as you talked about earlier, that should open up some driving lanes and some potential there for both Maxi and Paul George. And if you're talking about Paul George, Derek, with that, again, maybe he'll get that early 3 that'll knock down, but coming off of some pin down there from Yabusele where he's able to just pull up and rise up and knock down a mid-range jump shot to get it going, or keep the dribble alive, drive to the basket because Sabonis is pulled away from the basket and he can finish at the rim because, as you just talked about, DeRozan, if that's the defender, is not going to slow him down. Keegan Murray is out from this game also. While he's not a defender, just more length that they would have out there. I haven't seen the starting lineup yet for the Kings, but just a player like that, again, with some length there to help out Sabonis on the back end. We'll see if it's Trey Lyles or wherever direction they go. And again, if it's Trey Lyles, still somebody who is not a good defender. So the lane should be open for both Maxi and George to get loose. And we've seen the difference in George with Embiid on the floor versus off. And you just ran over those splits. And tonight he should be able to get some really good looks again. We've talked about the looks aren't the problem. it's the shot falling once he takes the shot. So again, another opportunity, 2 mid-range killers going after each other, maybe in this one tonight, and we'll see if Paul George gets the best of it. So, Kyle, you mentioned Lowry being in the starting lineup. What was the option that you would have potentially liked to see Nurse go?
Well, so that's the other thing, right? It's like I can sit here and be like, man, I don't want to see Lowry play. But then once you take him out of it, you say,
right.
I mean, is he going to start Ricky? Is he going to start post-cavity, post-wisdom tooth, whatever it is, Eric Gordon? Is he going to – I mean, do you play big? That would be an option, right? You start Drummond and then play Yabu as a 4, transition into Yabu as the lone big, and that's how you game the rotation in that way. I think I might have just gone big and tried to bully these guys because they are going to be lacking for size. Now, I say that knowing that Drummond has had a pretty rough season overall, and I don't have a ton of confidence in him, especially coming off a layoff. It's always tough to just come right back into the lineup and make a positive impact on the team. So I'm not killing Nurse in any way here, right? I would love to, for the brand, be like, yeah, put Ricky in there and see what he can do. And it's like, that kind of just shows you where they're at. I think Oubre being out is a bigger absence than probably we've given credit to on the show so far, because that's the easy one, right? You leave him, you have the 3 wings, Maxi, Yabu. That's a lineup that has reps, that has an identity that I think makes sense on paper. You take just one of those guys away, it becomes a lot trickier. So I get it. I just, I have to complain. It's like part of my personal brand at this point to be like, please no more Kyle Lowry. And I hate to say that because
Kyle Lowry, I wasn't asking because I wasn't asking to like put you in a tough spot. It was just really just a question of, if you didn't want to see it, where would you go? But the double big part, to your point, Sabonis is so good on the glass. Having Drummond out there, maybe that would have helped a little bit more also, just to make sure that you don't give up any more offensive opportunities for them. And he's so good collecting those rebounds that you do everything that you can to make sure you put a body on him and team rebound and get those boards if Drummond is not grabbing him. Now, the last time we did see it with Yabusele out there, they did a pretty decent job of team rebounding with him out there on the floor at the 5. So we'll see if they do that again. Without the double bigs and just simply having Yabusele out there. This is when you see Paul George crash the boards and you see Caleb Martin crash the glass as well. And we know that Maxi has done a much better job of helping out on the glass also. So they're going to have to collectively team rebound against this basketball team because Sabonis gets after it on the boards.
100%.
Yeah. And to Kyle's point, I don't think they should have started Ricky. But I do think with Kelly and KJ out, this is a game where Ricky should get a little bit of burn. And hopefully he is locked in and playing through the scheme and paying attention off ball and maybe even spotting up within 30 feet of the basket and giving them a chance to, playing well so he can play a little bit more because there's going to be minutes available to him. I think they need his athleticism a little bit to get up and down. And they could use his defensive spark to try to ignite the break. So he has to play, like I said, within the scheme and give Nurse a reason to believe in him. And
we talked about it quite a bit. I think having Ricky's energy coming off the bench is a good thing, especially if you're going to start Yabu, where Yabu has been one of your consistent sources of bench impact and energy, diving around the floor, hitting the glass, things like that. So you got to have some element of that to come into the game after, you make first subs and you're making your way through the rotation. So hopefully Ricky can stay settled tonight would be what I would say. He played like the first half of that Portland game, I think, and then never made another appearance, at least a meaningful appearance, until the game was basically over. We did get a funny shot of him on the bench on the broadcast that I think I have saved in a meme folder somewhere at this point. So hoping for a good game from Ricky. But yeah, I mean, look, ultimately this is going to come down to how Tyrese and Paul manage this game. And I'm curious, like, Tyrese has been really, really good recently. And the other night was a different version of a good Tyrese game. This is a good test for him to take what he has learned, not just from this year, but last year, about managing these no Joel games and taking what the game's given him, right? And that will probably mean passing up some okay shot opportunities for open looks for guys who will inevitably miss those open looks, right? Because that's how it goes around here. But he's got to make sure he trusts his reads and walks that line between hunting his own shot, playing aggressive, being that leader for the team, but also playing the setup guy.
Passing up those shots. Caleb Martin is not playing the Celtics tonight. He's playing the Kings. So we'll see if they fall like that tonight against the Sacramento Kings. Also, Nick Nurse has been calling the number of Reggie Jackson. So we'll see if he sprinkles in some minutes there to help Kyle Lowry out with some of those reserve guard minutes. You mentioned Eric Gordon also being back and ready to go once again after missing that time. So we'll see what all of that looks like for this one. Reggie, I mean, Ricky just has to play under control. That's the bottom line. Yep. But we know that's part of the Ricky Council experience. And for the brand, we love it. It's fun, but they're probably going to need some double-digit minutes from him tonight against this team as they get up and down the floor for sure. Let's get to the Bet365 pregame pick segment brought to you by Bet365 once again. And with that, of course, use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment's never ordinary at Bet365. And before the game, for transparency, I did have Kelly Oubre in the parlay with Domantas Sabonis, but had to adjust. So we changed it on the fly. You probably saw my head down, typing the brie when the show started. And that was with Yabusele being in the lineup to push that 1.5 over of threes made for Yabusele. He's probably going to get a decent amount of looks because with the ability for Maxi and George to penetrate the defense, create, and facilitate not only for themselves, but also to get others involved, he's probably going to be hugging that three-point line a little bit and have some decent looks. So I went with the over of the 1.5 for Yabusele on threes made tonight against.
I'm riding with Campbell and Gibbons on that one tonight.
On this one,
I think that's
his average.
easy.
His average is right there, but he should get 10 to 15 more minutes than his average.
Right,
so, yeah,
exactly.
I agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, so I just figured Bet365. Thank you for putting this one so low for us to put that one at 1.5. So thanks again to Bet365 for our pregame pick segment. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Folks, you really know it's the new year, 2025, when I have Derek and Kyle's support on the Bet365
New year, new you.
For the game. So this is fantastic.
I'm not saying you have my support.
It's more Yabusele.
Play that, it would
I
be.
know.
Yeah.
Yes, Yabusele. I also looked at because the number was, I think it was like 39.5 for Sabonis, knowing that Embiid would be out. It was the assistant rebounds, 20.5 assistant rebounds for Sabonis. And I looked at that. I'm like, that's also an interesting number there because we know how much he passes the basketball, how much they finish. But with the unknown of the Doug Christie Kings offense, we'll see how that one plays out. But they're going to need to team rebound, of course, and help out Yabusele on the glass. We'll see what Drummond gives them as well. So that'll pretty much do it for us, folks. We got a basketball game coming up, the first one of 2025. The Sixers are going for their 5th win in a row. As the front end of a back-to-back as well. Kings tonight, Warriors on Thursday, 10 o'clock start time once again in San Francisco against Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. But first things first, take care of business against this basketball team tonight. We'll see what they do against the Sacramento Kings. We'll be back after the game to hang out with you once again on a late night to talk about maybe another victory for this team. Kicking off 2025 right. Let's see. They should be able to do so. Once again, our pregame show is presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Derek, Kyle, I'm Devon with Bree. We'll all be back after the game. Let's see if we're talking about 5 in a row for this basketball team. We'll see you after the game. Enjoy.